As we've hung out over the years, I know that you very much you always, not in a rude way, but you always question the information that is around. You don't simply accept like this is how you do it. Like that's never worked for you as long as I've been around. Is you've always wanted to know why. Like if this is what we do, why do we do it? Did you also do that then? Like did you also have that mindset when you were learning to coach, or was that something that kind of came about through the years of coaching and learning?
That's a great question. Actually, I think it's always kind of been there. It's probably one of those curiosity things, and it kind of stems from like, is there a better way to do something? Can you find a better way to do something? Going into gymnastics, for example, there are so many different ways to teach gymnastic skills, and I know that you're very very knowledgeable about gymnastics. You're very very involved in that world as well, and there are so many different ways to approach teaching a skill, and and how to break it down, how to drill different components of a skill, and then start putting them together. And I've had the fortune of being around a lot of great coaches and a lot of bad ones. They would just teach their kids how to chuck a skill. Like they would even the coach would spot them and throw them through a skill, manipulate their body through a skill, whether it was a flyaway off bars or a double back on floor or a dismount on beam or whatever. The coach would throw the kid through it, and their idea was like, well, once the kid experiences it enough and they feel it, then they'll be able to come back and clean it up, right? So I've been around coaches that would do it that way, and some coaches would have success, and usually they would have success with a certain type of athlete that responded well, right? Like the athlete that was just naturally gifted and talented and could really assimilate by, kind of being put through the motion, and then doing it enough times, that they would figure it out. And then you would then coach them. Okay, now point your toes. Now straighten out your knees. Now get your feet together. Lock out your elbows. Whatever the cue might be, the coach could bark it out, and the kid would adjust it, in mid-flight. But that's not very many kids. You know what I mean? Like that's not the majority of people. So the better way to teach things is to break it down into small parts and have them rehearse the small part over and over and over until that becomes familiar. And then you add the second part, drill it, then add the third part, right? Which is how you like to do things. You and I spend a lot of time, late nights talking about coaching theory and techniques, and both, I think, are on the same
Yeah.
page. For the most part, breaking them down into skills, way to go.
I think also it's so cool to hear you articulate in terms of gymnastics, because I think while I naturally was predisposed towards viewing things that way, and obviously my own experiences with gymnastics, both learning and coaching, have helped as well. I feel like having been around you for so long has like really hit the final nail on the head and drilled that in a way that has allowed me to adapt that in the jump rope world, and we'll get more to jump rope coaching in a little bit, but it's cool to go over this again, because it makes a lot of sense that you were watching these different models in the gymnastics world, and it now again is clicking like, oh yeah, that's why Dave went and created the RX method the way he did.